where the gesture is the first thing. I think of that as figuring out what it is you want to do with your drawing, and then starting out with the biggest, broadest shape possible. And then you move into the structure phase where you're trying to get these accurate shapes and figure out, it's like building a house. You build it with the wood, and you build the shape and the structure of it. And it's only the details come later on once you figure it out, where the rooms go, the size of the house.
So first of all, thank you so much, Dave, for being here. I've been following your work for years now. You are like, and I know I said this to Thomas Fluharty also, but I think you were maybe you and Thomas and a few more, but not many more, not much more. The few artists I followed on Instagram. So this is not I'm not saying it, to make you feel well or anything, but it's the truth. I saw your drawings and Thomas and a few more years ago. So it's a big pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me, for how long have you been drawing? Like, how old are you?
I'm 42 now.
Okay.
I've always been drawing. I was telling someone just last night, everyone's an artist at the beginning, and most people quit.
Yeah.
And I always wonder how much of talent, I feel like the majority of talent is just this strong drive to create art. And like in high school, my friends would want to go out, and for me, it was almost more interesting to sit at home and draw. And so just wanting to do it so bad that you put in the time, even when there's other opportunities. A lot of that is what we call talent. You just put so much time into something.
I agree 100%. And it's funny because yesterday I was telling, actually, a student of mine was asking me about his drawings and all that. And I told him, I can give you all the advice, all the shortcuts and all the, the best teaching I can and everything. But there's something that you have to do on yourself, on your own, which is spend time doing it, and do it for hours. And that's, I think it's a necessary part in the equation. He was saying to me, like, I don't think I am talented, but what I am is very persistent. And I said, that's more than enough. So I agree 100%. And I think a lot of people will be glad to hear this, that you're saying, because people think, that there are guys that born with the ability and they don't have to do the effort, to make it work. And yeah,
it's funny. Playing sports makes me think of this idea. There were some guys I played with, and they seemed like they were the guys with all the natural talent, and they were so good at it. But they were so good that they didn't care that much to push themselves and spend the time. They felt comfortable, and a lot of those guys would stop playing or become worse at it. They didn't have the drive, I guess, because of that natural ability. So the natural ability isn't going to necessarily get you where you want to go. It's the drive and the desire, I guess, that is really motivating.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like natural ability without all the drive and the effort and the hours won't do it, right?
Yeah.
So have you where have you learned to draw? Have you gone to art school, or how's that story?
So yeah, I always really just like to draw, and I would like, I just feel like it's mostly self-taught when I look back. I had art classes and things, but I don't feel like they helped me much. It was just all coming from inside somewhere and just putting time in. And the art classes in high school, they're very broad, and you're drawing shoes or just really boring stuff. So it's not that interesting. I don't feel like it progressed me very far. my family's not artistic. My parents didn't know anything about it, so they didn't know how to help me. So it was all just kind of me. Um, it was once I got to college that I discovered there was like an opportunity. There was a pathway for art. Before that, my parents, they always said, well, you can't make a living as an artist, so you should probably be like an architect or an engineer, which is kind of artistic. And they had a good point, but it 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 was always just who I was as an artist. That's kind of how I always identified, and it's what I wanted to do. I would say what really progressed me in high school was copying. I would just find books and find art and anything at all that I liked that was interesting to me, I would draw it.
Yeah.
Um, got a bunch of old sketchbooks that I started in high school, and they're, I remember copying dollar bills, just all those little intricate lines,
Yeah.
uh, copying bands, albums, just anything at all.
Yeah. So, but you didn't have like a academic formal, you didn't go to an art school for 5 years study art full time, or you
Um, Once I got to college, I found out art was a pathway, and I got into graphic design
okay,
initially, and then I moved into illustration, which is even closer. I feel like illustration is still the last bastion of real art. the
okay,
The fine art department was very abstract, and I don't think that was very useful for teaching anyone art in any in like a structural sense. So illustration was pretty good, but by the time I got there, I transferred in halfway through and had my last 2 years in the illustration department. But I feel like the assumption was you already knew how to draw if you were in the illustration department.
oh,
So I enjoyed it, but I don't feel like it was teaching how to draw necessarily.
yeah,
Although we did have figure drawing classes. I should say the figure drawing classes were the one thing where they really gave us a lot of uh, pointers on how to figure out structure and get things accurate.
yeah, yeah. Well, something I love about your drawings is actually that. Well, actually, they look super simple, but you can see, and you have the structure down, geometry, taking directions. That's a few things I saw on your drawings, or identify at least. And maybe I'm wrong, but I see you work with the straight lines, looking for the angles, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
and in my mind, I kind of break it down into, uh, I guess I should say a lot of this. Now that I'm thinking about it, I I don't have good structured thinking, maybe, but this figure drawing class, now that I'm thinking about it, I realize it did teach me a lot because they taught us how to create figures by starting with tube drawings. Well, first you start with a gesture, and then you do these tube people, and then build on top of that. And that's an idea that I've really taken and applied to all my drawings, where the gesture is the first thing. And I think of that as figuring out what it is you want to do with your drawing, and then starting out with the biggest, broadest shape possible. And then you move into this structure phase where you're trying to get these accurate shapes and figure out, it's like building a house. You build it with the wood, and you build the shape and the structure of it. And it's only the details come later on once you figured out where the rooms go, the size of the house, all the basic uh, dimensions of how things are going to be. And then you can build all the aesthetics on top of that and make it look pretty and nice.
yeah,
So I feel like if you look at my drawings, you can still see that most of my drawings that I post are from my sketchbook. And that first pass I do with a really light pencil, and usually it's still there by the end. I might erase it in areas where it gets in the way, but if you look close, you can see my initial structure and some of that work.
yeah. So yeah, I guess first, about the details. The details are like the cherry on top, right? Like you won't do anything just by putting the details too soon into a weird or a structure that's off, right? So I guess I agree 100% with that. And about the what you're saying about the structure with a lighter pencil, um, when you work with a lighter pencil afterwards, when you go with darker values, those values are the ones that are going to cut the attention of the viewer, of the observer, and I think those lines are going to win the battle against the softer ones. And so sometimes you don't even need to erase those, right?
Yeah, I usually leave them there. It keeps the character there. There's a lot of energy that comes from the initial structure work and the gesture, I guess. And yeah, the whole time I'm thinking, what's my intention with this drawing? And once I get further along, usually the intention is not harmed by leaving those light lines. So
Yeah, yeah,
for my drawings, usually I like to keep the energy. If I was doing something very academic and clean, I would clean it up. But usually I want something that has some life in it, and leaving those lines that retains the energy that started early.
and how many pencils do you use? I mean, do you use several pencils, or it's just,
No, just one.
oh, just one?
Yeah,
Oh,
I just have
so
a mechanical pencil. It's a 0.5 millimeter B lead, and that's the
okay.
only thing I use.
Oh, wow, that's a surprise. That's a surprise. Uh, I thought you were going to say I use I don't know, an HB 0.5 millimeter for the structure, then go for a 2V, or I don't know. I thought you were going to say something like that.
Yeah, I like to just keep my things as simple as possible. Like I'm not a tools person. I don't like to explore different things necessarily.
Yeah,
I just like to use what works.
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, yeah. So most comes from your wrist and the pressure you apply when drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, just a light touch early on. I also use the eraser quite a bit. I've
Uh-huh.
got like a gummy kneaded eraser,
Yeah,
and that's something I've picked up quite a bit too, is you can build up the structure as much as you want and just freely erasing large areas and doing another pass. Like every time you feel like something's not quite there, just erasing it and going back over it. When you erase it, you can still see what's going on underneath what you've figured out before, and you can correct it and get closer to where you want to be. So uh,
yeah,
I feel like that's a really big thing that artists don't learn for quite a while, but being willing to let go of things. So sometimes you'll draw an ear and you're like, that's a great ear. I don't want to erase it. I see these problems, or maybe it's in the wrong spot, but I don't want to let it go because that ear just turned out really well, and
yeah.
I don't want to give it up. And that's something you have to learn to release. Because if you drew it and you can't draw it again, then you can't really draw it.
Oh,
Um, you you just got lucky.
yeah,
Hanging on to it at the expense of the rest of the drawings not helping you. It's not
yeah.
making you any better.
Yeah, that's the problem of doing a beautiful thing too soon in the drawing, right? Uh, like I tell my students not to get compromised too soon, and try to work loose as much as possible, because yeah, like you said, sometimes when you do something that's already very defined, or looking too good for you at least, then you get all shy and you won't risk when creating the rest. At least that's what happens to me. That's why I try to go as loose as possible for as long as possible, and I try to compromise myself when I feel more confident of the lines I see on the paper. I guess the process is different for everyone, right? But
Yeah, well, that rule of general to specific, and getting those details, for me, that's one of the biggest important things to keep in mind, is you need to stay as general as possible. When you're building a house, you don't want to be working on the tile work before you figured out where the rooms are. You want to work on those rooms. And yeah, if you're doing it loose and not careful, then it's easier to get rid of things when you realize what, like, yeah, I don't understand how artists just start full tight detail on an eyeball and build out from there. My
I,
idea is the exact opposite, is you get the big large structure and then you build in. And
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, well, of course you've seen this, that I don't know, they start from the top and go down, as if they were a printer, and they
Yeah.
do like, and once they are down, all the drawings done, and it's or the same, or from the eye and then expand and do the whole thing, and it's done. Like once they, but it's amazing. I mean, I've seen a few videos of you drawing, so I don't know exactly how you do it. I have, some uh, ideas, but I don't know exactly. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird because your drawings look very confident, and they look like every line you do is right on the right spot. They look like very direct, at least for me. Like and what you're saying is not, you go from general to more specific, and you work the structure, so there is a preparation before the final aesthetic, so it's not that you go 100% in from the get-go.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I feel like there's a very clear distinction when I'm drawing. I've got a structure stage, and I'm trying to think, is that your right brain or left brain, supposedly? But it's a very structured way of thinking, and it's all about accuracy and getting these things right. And then I feel like I click into the opposite side of my brain, and it's very aesthetic and fluid, and there's no right answers. Everything is subjective, and does this line look right? But they've to me they're very distinctive parts of the drawing. So figuring out where everything goes and then making it look nice. They're very different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like on the second part you mentioned, when you want to make everything more aesthetic, you already have the proportions, so you can relax about where everything goes, and focus more on yeah, the style of the line. And how did you come up with your style? Like how did you find the style, or how the style found you? Or I mean, because you have a very distinguished style, right? Like a very maybe a kind of a cross hatching, but you don't do like a mess with thousands of lines. It's very well, you make it look simple. I know it's doesn't mean it's easy, but you have a very distinguished style. How did you get there?
Um, yeah, you said, did it find me? And that's what I always tell everyone is, especially students, they get really stuck on this idea of how do you find your style.
Yeah.
And my feeling is your style is your personality. If you want to change your style, you probably have an easier job trying to change your personality, and that will change your style.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's yeah.
I had this art teacher, and he would often, his long story, but I I could look at his drawings and see these things about his personality. Like he would start into big things and not finish them. And I would look at his drawings, and that's what it was. And it was
Yeah.
so interesting to me. Like he was the guy that had these like perfectly rendered eyeball, and it looked great, but then he wouldn't finish the rest of it.
Yeah.
And that showed up in other aspects of his life. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. That's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I've looked at my drawings, and I feel the same way about my own. There's things about my character in my drawings, and that's where it came from. I'm kind of impatient. uh I kind of like to move on once I feel like I've got something, so that's kind of where my sketches come from. They're not rendered all the way, they're not finished all the way around the edges. I kind of feel like I'm done with it when it's reached the point that I'm finished with it, so I moved on. And the single pencil is kind of the reason for a lot of things. Like I said, I don't like tools. I don't like researching tools necessarily and figuring out, going
Yeah.
through all different experimentation stuff. Um, anyway, there's a lot of little stuff like that. Just I see in my own personality and how I live the rest of my life, and it's reflected on those drawings.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're looking as you're growing, just find all the art that you like and copy it again, and bits of that will come into you. And there's a reason you like it, again, based on your personality. And as you keep trying that, it will become integrated into yourself. I used to use a even smaller mechanical pencil, like an architectural one. I think it was 0.3 millimeters,
Oh,
maybe.
that's small.
So you can see some of my drawings on Pinterest, and they're this different style where the hatches are like much more refined and smaller and shorter. Now I feel like they're more fluid, and I would actually say that's kind of a change of my personality over time. I was more like, I don't know how to describe myself, but
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
Again,
was
that's
more,
yeah.
yeah, focused or something.
Yeah.
But it's something that's changed over time, and now what I'm doing feels better to me. Sometimes I'll post out things and I'll get responses like, I like that style better than what you're doing now. But I
Oh,
don't feel like I can just switch back to that, because that's what I was at the time, but I'm not that anymore, and it doesn't feel right anymore.
it's amazing how a lot of what you say, um, I feel very similar with a lot of the things you're saying, and I want to say that you don't have to be drawing every day for 8 hours to feel these things. Like you can have drawing as a hobby and draw for 2 hours a week and still feel this way, because I see this with my students. It doesn't have to do with the level you are at, right? I think it has to do more with creating, with the fact that we are creating, and this probably happens to musicians too, and to, I don't know, movie directors, and they wrote a script that they could not write today because they did a few years back, and they were living something else at that point. And I have a folder on my computer with all my drawings. Like there is one folder called Juan Perednik, and there all the drawings are there, so I can scroll down. They are organized by uh, date, and you can scroll down and you can see, as I was younger, what I was doing. And sometimes before starting a drawing, or yeah, before starting to draw, I go and look down for the drawings I did that I liked, and of course I always remember what was going on with me when I was doing certain drawing. And there are times that I see drawings and I say, oh, this one was cool, but I could not do that today. Like I'm not
Mm,
there, you know.
right.
Uh, like it's I don't know, kind of melancholic way of looking at it, but it's, I don't know. I was living something else, and I'm not the same Juan that I was 2 years back. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think of, for people starting, they imagine when you progress and become a better artist, that you'll feel a different way about art,
Oh yeah,
like it comes easy.
yeah,
And in a way things do, but the whole process is the same struggle. Like it feels exactly the same now.
yeah,
The further you get, the more you can see your deficiencies and your problems, and it feels almost precisely the same. If like maybe you're 95% of the way there, but you can see that 5% as well as you could see it when you're 20% along and 80% in front of you. Like, it's the exact same struggle. You're just still just trying hard to push yourself, and you're not satisfied with where you're at, and you want to get further.
Yeah, I guess that's the bad news and the good news at the same time, right? Like the journey is never over. Like you won't reach where you want to reach ever. But I guess that's life, right? So
Right.
it's a good thing and not a bad thing, you know, but it's that's life. Like I think that when I heard John Mayer say this. He said something like your taste about things art is always a little bit further than your ability to create art. So when you reach that point you want it to be with your art, your taste is a little bit further away once again. I don't know if that makes sense. It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
uh the carrot, you know, that it's always ahead of you
Yeah.
and it will
Yeah.
be always a little bit. What I do think that makes, well, it doesn't get easy, but you get used to it, is facing the fears, right? Um, I guess it's not the same to do a drawing once a month that doing a drawing every day. So if you do a drawing once a month, you will have a lot of pressure because you will have your uh, revenge or your opportunity to make things better in a month. So you're trying to do the best and planning everything, and you have a lot of pressure on yourself. But if you face the challenge or your fears to create more often, I think you get used to facing the fears basically, and you have more opportunities. Uh, yeah, closer in time, so you will be well. At least that's how I think of it, you know. The fears are always the same, the risks are always the same. You will always have to uh, work with proportion, likeness, and all the stuff we know, and we will always struggle with that. It can always be better, but you get used to the process of facing that. At least that's how I think of it.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever feared, but I guess you become more confident in the process and that you can get somewhere by working through it. But yeah, with that John Mayer comment, I understand any satisfaction we feel in life is based on progress towards a goal. And that is one of the real upsides of art is you're never going to arrive, but you can endlessly feel that progress of getting a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Uh, there was this Japanese artist. What's the name of well, yeah, I don't want to mess up here, mess it up, but the name of the artist that did the very famous wave.
Mm,
Well, I think he was that. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but he in an interview he was, I don't know, 80 or 90 years old, and the interviewer said, "So are you happy with your drawings and everything?" And he would say, yeah, it's okay, but I'm going to draw much better in 10 years from now. And he was 90, you know.
mm,
uh so that's the feeling, you know. Well, what we're saying, the journey is, it's a lifetime journey, right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. For me, I'm mostly just happy to be able to make art, and it's nice that it's something that I really want to do, and it motivates me, and it always has.
Yeah.
But yeah, it, it's also frustrating. Like sometimes going through, I couldn't go through my old stuff every time I started drawing. There's so much frustration that would come out about
Oh yeah.
things that weren't there. But then you come across the handful that are just really great, and they're kind of they feel like they're beyond what you could do if you sat down trying to do it. Like some of them just land, right?
Yeah, yeah, agree. And the other thing I saw, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw more digital paintings that you've been sharing, especially on Instagram. Uh, I don't know if it was maybe a year back with all this pandemic. I don't know if it was a year, 2 years back, or whatever, that you were sharing more oil paintings. Actually, you were in one. I remember one that you said you were practicing more oil painting, like traditional painting, and wanted to ask you what was or what is all that about, and if you feel more like a man that like a drawing man, or I don't know how to say this in English, like a man
Mhm.
that draws, or like a painting man, a man that paints, or
Uh,
both, or you're comfortable with both.
yeah, draftsman might be the English word.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
A guy that draws.
yeah,
So it's interesting. Drawing feels like it's always been my bread and butter. It's been the basis of everything. Um, and it feels like the thing that people respond to the most. And I kind of imagine it like you're climbing a mountain, and once you can kind of get far enough, you can send this art creation to like an automatic part of your brain
yeah,
where it's like you get over the mountain and into this beautiful valley or something, and it can just kind of flow.
yeah.
And I feel like that's where drawing has gotten to me. I was looking at a Sargent painting a couple of years ago, and I realized that's what he was doing. You know, Sargent, he's got just those beautiful strokes, and there's so few of them. You look at it, and it's like that just looks easy.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it was. Like I think it was really hard for him to get to that point, but all my all my good art just flows and just feels right the whole time, and it's not a struggle. So struggle is what's like getting me better, but any almost all my great stuff that I really am happy with is stuff that just flows, and it's not hard at all, if
Uh-huh.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, you brought up oil painting. I love oil painting. It's almost, well, I guess I like it as much as drawing, but I would
Okay.
like to be as good with oil painting as I am with drawing, and I don't feel like I've gotten there.
Okay.
It doesn't flow, like it's this struggle. And I
Yeah.
feel like I can see it in most of my paintings.
Well, at least with me, I don't feel it as natural as I feel drawing. I think I don't, and this is going to sound weird, but I don't know. I think even though I have several paintings and I do paint from time to time, for me it's going outside of my comfort zone, and I don't feel as comfortable, or I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy drawing. Although I do enjoy the end result, I do enjoy the end result. I like what I do, but I'm still not enjoying as much the creating process. Maybe that's why I'm not doing it as often. Do you feel the same way, or for you it's like both are supernatural and
Sometimes I can get into the natural feeling with oil painting. I don't put as much time into it. I always compare it to juggling, and I feel like drawing, maybe you're juggling three balls and like you're getting really good at it. But color is just, it's just like four more balls. It's so much more. It feels like one more element, but it's a lot.
yeah,
You're just multiplying how much you're trying to work out in your brain. Um, yeah, even with drawings, I have I have to like get in a get some momentum. So it's like I'll have 2 days of not very great drawings, and the third day will be a nice drawing. And
that's
each
interesting.
each day you're kind of like building up this momentum if you can
Yeah,
do it to get one of those nice flowing drawings.
yeah,
But maybe the other 2 days you're kind of struggling a little bit with it and it's not landing.
yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. I yeah, I don't have the like I've never thought about that in terms of days. Um but I see that on my drawings, like again when I go to my folder, uh or I see, I don't know, I'm probably doing like one for sure a week, um because I'm with a lot of work. But I'm doing one or two drawings a week. If I'm lucky, I'm if I do three drawings a week would be a great week, like three drawings, personal drawings. But yeah, of course, these are not always good, and there are drawings that I like more than others, and drawings that I feel that yeah. But an advice, I read a book. There's a small book that my brother bought, uh, uh, for me years ago now. And it's called Share Your Work. It's a very, very small yellow book that was in a, uh, yeah, I don't know where it was, but he bought it. And there was something that, there was a part in which the book said, don't be your own, don't be always your own judge. Like, share the work and see what people think about it, and um, don't let yourself stop you from sharing, right? So I kept that on my mind, and because sometimes we can be very hard on ourselves, and people actually would like the work we've done, and we are killing ourselves because it's not perfect or whatever. So I sometimes apply that concept, and even though I'm not 100% happy with the work, I will share the work anyways to see what people think. And the very fun surprise is that the drawings I like the most, the drawings I feel are um, more interesting to me, or deeper to me, or whatever, people don't seem to like them as much. And the ones that I think are a little bit off, those are the ones that people are or yeah, those are the ones that people like. So for me, it's very weird. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's this evil thing called algorithm in Instagram, or what is it, but uh, that's something that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't worry too much about how people feel about my art. Um, it's always just been such an internal thing for me, and um, even the results don't matter that much usually to me. It's like the process that I like, and but yeah, I've definitely noticed there's some that I really like, and people don't respond to them the same way. There's definitely, you talked about oil painting. There's one painting I painted of my kids upstairs, and it's my favorite painting in the world, and it feels like it just worked so well. Some of it's that it's my kids, but I feel like that how it was done was really nice. But Instagram, nobody cares at all for it. Nobody likes it at all. I feel like that's the case with almost all of any big ambitious project doesn't seem to go over well with Instagram. It's something about the algorithms or just
It's
how people are interacting with it. But they love the little sketches and fast things, and
yeah,
you kill yourself for thousands of hours on something and they're like,
yeah.
I don't care that much.
They just don't care, right? How long it takes you to do one of your drawings?
Most drawings are like an hour.
An hour.
I've established a really good system for myself, and at night the kids go to bed at 8:30, and I um turn on a show in the background, movie in the background, and just draw. So I
Wow.
get like 2 hours of drawing every single night almost, unless something comes up. So it's been like really nice way to get the time in consistently. And
Yeah.
now that's how I know that I can, it takes 2 days or three
Yeah.
days to do a good drawing.
Yeah.
Most days I'm doing that. And it's in the evening and there's zero pressure. it's funny, I get commissions sometimes, and it changes the dynamic so much to
Yeah,
have the pressure of having to perform. At night, I just draw, and if it turns out great, and if it doesn't, that's fine. Just turn the page.
yeah,
But yeah, the consistency is very nice with that. And that's the problem with oil painting, even digital painting too. It's like I don't get the same kind of repetition and
mm,
dedicated time to it. There's always stuff throwing me off.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and that happens to me too. That happened to me actually this last maybe 2 weeks. I had commissions, and that takes me out of this very schematic or yeah, way of drawing that I have, in which I, well, actually I'm more of a morning guy. So I wake up very early and start drawing at maybe 7 a.m. I start drawing. But when I have commissions, like responsibility, comes to me, and I know I have to, that's my priority number one. So it takes me out of that yeah, of that momentum. And I was talking about this with my father the other day, and in which he told me, so hey, how are the drawings? Are you doing anything good with them? Any cool piece you've done? Yeah, I mean, I've been drawing less, but I felt like there was nothing very no very special drawings. But I said, yeah, I'm with my mind on the commissions, so I disconnect from the matrix, from where all the, I don't know, the feelings and like I feel I have to finish my commissions to settle down, reconnect with what I like, what I wanna communicate, uh, and then go back to that mode of more creative or more um, uh, world of, I don't know, sensations, more intimate, you know. Uh,
Right.
at least that's um, how I do it, or what happens to me. Um,
Yeah, that's such a challenge. The time management issue.
mm,
Yeah, it's true. Whenever I have a project, I want to do my project and get those boxes checked off. But then if I've got a few things, it'll take me away from the intimate drawing for a long time.
y-
Um yeah, and I come down and I feel like social media is like destroying all of our personality or
oh,
time management and
mm.
what's the word? How long we can focus on a specific thing.
Oh, oh man, I can tell you how bad I am with that right now. Like, it's for me, it's I can't watch a movie like for 2 hours without grabbing the phone. It's horrible. It's super sad.
Right.
Um, I just can't. It's and to be, and the truth is that I don't have kids, so I don't have those kind of responsibilities. It's not that, and but I still, it's a habit, right? If you're all the day, every 15, 20, or half an hour grabbing the phone, then you try to stay 2 hours without the phone, and it's hard for us to do it. It's so the
Yeah,
question.
it just pulls you out of it. It makes everything harder.
Oh man, I guess it all comes with a price, right? So it helps a lot, but well, it has a price that we are paying. Maybe they don't tell the price at the beginning, but there is a price for sure.
Yeah, I've come to the feeling that it's mostly negative. It,
Mm,
it's so hard. It just you have to fight it all day long. You just want to check in on whatever. Like I allow myself to look on Twitter for a minute in the mornings, and then it just destroys my ability to focus on anything. All these little bits of information. And everything about art is you need to sit down and focus
yeah,
and just dedicate your time to something.
yeah. One thing I've done is um, I go to sleep and I leave my phone in airplane mode on the bathroom. So maybe that helps. I don't know. But what it definitely does is that I cannot wake up and check all the social media. So I'm not on bed with my phone, scrolling at the first moment. So I wake up, I'm in airplane mode, I have no notifications, I go feed my cat, I meditate for 15 minutes. So I try to do as much as I possible without checking. And well, yeah, then you open that box, that door, and everything comes. It's
Yeah,
it's
just the idea that you have to fight it so much and it's just
oh man.
there. And you just have to fight it. And especially when you're tired and it's hard to fight.
And have this changed your approach to art? Like, have that changed how you approach, when they say now we are creating for social media, like when we create, we think of how we are going to share it, if it's going to work, if not.
Yeah, it's in the background of my mind, but like I said, I think I do pretty well at not being motivated by external response to my art. Um, yeah, there was a few years where I spent too much time on Instagram just searching things, and it was very interesting and waste a lot of time, but I've gotten to the point where it's not that interesting, so I
Yeah.
don't go very often. And mine's nice. Like I said, I've got this system where I draw every night, and so there's a handful that turn out, and I just share stuff that turned out. So it's stuff that I would have made no matter what. And the fact that I can share it's great, but I made the art anyway. Before Instagram, there were blogs, and they were even nicer because people didn't rush by so quickly. But it was the same thing. I had this stack of art that I was creating just as an artist, and it was just a place that I could put it, and people could look at it if they wanted to or not. So trying to cultivate that idea with your art seems like a good approach.
Yeah.
Not creating stuff for a
Mm.
response. Creating it for yourself and for your own progress. And then if the response is good, then that's nice, but it's
Yeah.
not motivating you.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, man. So, anything you want to share, like a website, anything? I'm going to share your Instagram and everything I can find, every link I can find of you. I'm going to share it here. But if you want to share, you have a great book that I've already bought, which is amazing, full of drawings. It's like drawing after drawing. So I super recommend the book for people that like drawings and, of course, your art. That's on your website, right?
Yeah, and I'm running down to the end of my books. I'm thinking I might do a second book here pretty soon. Got plenty of drawings.
Yeah.
So probably soon I'll do that, maybe next month or June. Yeah, my website, davemalan.com, has links to everywhere where I share my art. I'm working on a class right now with Underpaint Academy.
Uh-huh.
I have a Patreon too where I just post little demonstrations. There's like 50 different videos now on there of just different topics. So yeah.
Great. Fantastic, man. Big pleasure. Thank you so much for being here, open and willing to answer all the questions about your art. I would keep you here for another hour or a few more hours, but maybe some other day. Big pleasure. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep in touch, okay, man?
Great. Yeah. It's nice to meet you. Nice to talk. I feel like as an artist, we're all like stuck in these little rooms, and
Yeah.
I definitely feel this way. I don't know if I can talk to people anymore because I'm so much in my own head, but it's nice to talk every once in a while.
Yeah, definitely, Dave. Okay, take care and see you soon, okay?
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Dave.